The guy who had rented the house had a dream that he basically pulls out a gun and shoots me in the throat. And it was super clear. It was like, it's time to get out of this house. At the end of my first year of I want to say awakening, opening, awopening. Unsleeping, yeah, my year of unsleeping. I got into this whole sexuality bit of like, you know, did a Tantra workshop in California at Harbin Hot Springs, exploring all these different things around relationship and sexuality. There's a group in Boulder for the orgasmic meditation community, and I ended up living in the house that one of the people had rented out and was like trying to create a community out here, and lived there for like 6 months until it was very clear for me to leave. In that 6-month period, also encountered Kristen Myrick and all of her work, and started going to her workshops, which is where Ben and I met.
That had a lot more integrity, I think.
That was way more integrity, yeah. And that really was what brought me back into myself, was realizing that all this dip into sexuality, while it was necessary for the time, like it was time to like deepen into heart.
What was the Tantra workshop? What did that actually consist? Because I feel like at some point, either I'm doing that work with somebody I'm committed to, or I decide like, fuck it, I'm just gonna start working on it. What's the structure of, like, what does that even look like?
So the structure, so there's like different kinds of Tantra out there. There's people call them either red or white Tantra. First off, so like to set the stage, so white Tantra is more spiritual based, so it's more about like the connection and the energy flow, and it's not, so the red is like all the sexuality, where the people in Boulder that do Tantra workshops, it's more the red. Like your homework the first night is to give a woman an orgasm, like on her G-spot. Like it's just like, that's what you got to do.
Much more physical.
Super physical, yeah. So the one that I did was in between, where they had a very strict boundary that like no genitals touching, no touching of erogenous zones during the workshop. But we did like do partnering exercises where we did the sats, whatever that lotus position is, where you're just the man sitting cross-legged and the woman's wrapped around him.
Yeah.
And then we did a breathing exercise together, like rocking back and forth. So like that was as far as they went.
Yeah.
And a lot of it
were you clothed or naked?
You were clothed. Yeah. A lot of it was about breath work and like practicing being connected. So a lot of the people show up as couples. Like I think the majority of people do that, at least the one that I was at. And they do allow singles, but they make sure there's always an even number of men and women singles. And then the singles would actually rotate. At the time I got there, I met a woman who I actually paired up with for the rest of the workshop. So the upshot that I took away from the Tantra was that, at least for me, it was way better to do with someone.
Yeah.
Like consistently, because the level of depth that you want to get to is it's work, right? It's like the work to be present with someone in your own sexuality, in your own body. Now the Tantra, as we both know, is more about the role-playing, like god and goddess language, and like rituals around all that. You know, like we would do this. There's a term called a puja, where it's this coming together in a circle, and men and women pair up, but like you embody the god or the goddess energy and really like play in that space, which actually really works. Like it's like super amazing. Like what happened was, my experience when we did that in the workshop was that the idea was that first the women set up their space in this outer circle as if they were the temple that the seeker, which was the man, was, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about this, would go to seek the goddess in the temple to ask questions. And what I found was that when people actually embodied the god or goddess energy, they actually flowed the deepest wisdom through them without any effort. Like people were asking like the most deepest questions of like, what do women want? You know, and like what truly are women looking for? And they would answer with these profound answers of like, they're looking for presence, they're looking for your fullness, they're looking for you showing up in your purpose, and like, and it was just anyone did it, like everyone did it. I even when it was time for the men to do it, they were coming up and asking like, what do men want? And it was like, we want your fullness, we want your expression and like your radiance, and like, you know, anytime you hold that back, it's painful. And like, and you know, and some women had very, like, we did this twice, so there's like 2 women that came, you know, we rotated it, and so we paired with 2 different people, and you know, everyone had their different wounding, but it was like I could feel it and I could speak to it, and it was easy because it was like they were inviting the deepest answer, like they were open to it, so it was easy to give it, and everyone had that experience, and that was one of the most profound things I walked away with.
That's cool.
From that work, yeah. But yeah, like at the end of it, the work I would prefer to do with someone that I know, and could work on it with consistently. And at the time, I was really excited about it. Like I was dating a couple different women back then, and when I would bring it up with any of them, it was like they weren't really interested.
Man, it's hard to find a partner to practice with.
And to that end, I actually let it all go. Like you know, in the last couple of years, I've dated a few people briefly, but more and more, it's just I just had to keep letting it go because like it wasn't the time. Because the time has been about deepening into all this work right now. But it was an interesting journey through the Tantra, and there may be bringing some of that back. I just don't know if I'll need to do that directly. I think there are some really cool practices, and maybe even people who teach how to deepen into that. Like one thing I'm really interested in, and I was really strong then, was about for a man separating ejaculation from orgasm. And I know that there are people out there who practice that and have like...
I've done it twice.
That's right, you talked about that, yeah. And to work with someone on that regularly would be really amazing. Yeah, sexuality, it's cool when you're really open to it.
Most people aren't.
No.